What up? This is Rama Screen covering movies, TV, and entertainment. How's it going, everybody? And here's my review of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger new season 2. I had the opportunity to screen the first couple of episodes thanks to Marvel Television and Freeform. Um, I'm not gonna do this video with jump cuts or editing or anything fancy smancy except probably the poster image. Mainly because, man, it's been a long day and still got a lot of things that I need to get done, so I don't have a couple of hours to just sit down and do editing work. I just want to just give this to you guys straight up, one take, to my fellow Marvel Cloak and Dagger fans out there. Excuse me. Also, before we get to the review, I just want to give you a heads up. Just like with most of my TV reviews and episode recaps, this will contain spoilers. I'll be spilling some spoilers in this video. Nothing major, okay? Nothing major. Mainly synopsis related. Especially, I want to give you a refresher of what happened in season 1, a quick recap to get you guys to remember as we get into this season 2. So yeah, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Ow. Still sore. I bit my tongue, man. It sucks. And also, I want to invite you guys to watch my video interviews with the 3 lead stars of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. That's right. At this past WonderCon 2019, I had the opportunity to interview Olivia Holt, aka Dagger, aka Tandy, and also Aubrey Joseph, aka Cloak, aka Tyrone, and Emma Lahana. I hope I pronounced that last name correctly. She plays Detective Bridget. So go watch my entire video interviews with those amazing people right here on Rama Screen YouTube channel. I'll provide the links in the description box below this video. All right, so now that we've set the ground rules, let's get right to it. My fellow Cloak and Dagger fans, you would remember probably what happened in season 1, even though it's been a while ago. Tandy and Tyrone, these 2 characters. Tandy was solving this mystery surrounding her father's death and the company that her father worked for and that whole conspiracy thing. And Tyrone was grappling with the difficulties of his power that kept on inadvertently transporting him to places that he didn't want to. Oftentimes led him back to the cop that killed his brother when he was a kid. By the way, these 2 characters are connected. At the beach when they were tiny little kids. So there's that. Okay, I don't want to go all over the whole things of season 1. And of course, by the end of it, they join forces, and now Tyrone's on the run. And of course, Tandy is still a runaway teen. And if you remember in season 1, Tyrone also has this guy that supposedly worked at a construction business, but apparently he's dealing with the underground drug world as well. And he, he was one of the casualties of season 1. And now you have that as a refresher going into episode 1. Where are Tandy and Tyrone now? Well, let me tell you. Tyrone uses his time, now that he's kind of like being falsely accused and wanted. And so he's using his time to, laying low, but not necessarily laying low, because he also wants to own his skills. HONE, like really master it. And so what he does in this episode 1, or the start of it, is that he would teleport himself to the heart of the drug dealers' warehouse and would steal their drugs, would steal their money right under their noses. Pretty brazen stuff. Like, cause he'd be like vanish. He'll vanish. He'll show up again. I was like, where did he go? Where did he go? And then, so he's hard to catch, and that's cool. I always like teleportation powers, or because it reminds me of that movie Jumper. Do you remember Jumper with Hayden Christensen? And Samuel L. Jackson? He's like, you can go anywhere in the world, and just like, oh my god, you don't even have to have the hassle of flying there like Superman does, or so it's just like, boop, that's it. You're inside a bank vault, like if you want to rob a bank. Of course, Tyrone doesn't do that. Um, so that's what he does here. He thinks that he's doing good. He uses his power to um, steal from the drug dealers, kind of like Robin Hood, steal from the rich, but evil rich. But instead of giving it to the poor, Tyrone gives the evidence to Bridget. And Bridget, in this episode 1, doesn't like that. She doesn't like that Tyrone is being a vigilante. And understandably so, because Bridget has a badge. It's like, dude, you're a freaking kid. Just be a kid. Be a teenager. What the heck? Leave this thing to us cops. You're just making it worse, because if you steal from one gangster, then that gangster would be paranoid, thinking like the other gangster from the other turf stole from him. So then you cause what? A turf war. You cause a gang war. So, and she's right. Tyrone thinks it's just that simple, right? So sometimes when we're younger, we have this thing like, oh, if we just did this and boom, that's it. It would be solved. But, as we grow older, we find out that the world is much more complicated than that, and it has to be approached from that perspective, or from that lens. Now that's Tyrone. At the start of episode 1 of season 2. All right, the season 2 episode 1 is titled "Restless Energy," and Tandy is being her own vigilante as well, but significantly different from Tyrone. Whereas Tyrone, um, his enemy are the drug lords in the town in New Orleans. Tandy, her enemies are wife beaters, actual wife beaters. I'm not talking about like the the shirt that men wear. Because in season 1, part of the revelation in season 1 is that her dad was not a saint. Her dad that she looked up to, turns out, treated her mom wrongly. And so in the episode 1, Tandy goes with her mom to the support group for other victims of domestic abuse. And that is where she listens to other victims and tries to find out where they live, so then they can stalk or like observe from afar and find out who this guy or this man that beats her up, whoever this woman is. And then when the woman leaves, she would come in and teaches him a lesson. So that's what she does as a vigilante. It reminds me of that movie Vigilante, by starring Olivia Wilde. I think it comes out. Oh, it came out early. It came out earlier this month, I think. So that is where Tandy is at the start of episode 1 of season 2. Bridget, we see Bridget still dealing with her trauma. I guess you can say PTSD. You remember in season 1, I think the cop that had a fling with her, he got murdered, and some other stuff, some other tragedies happened to Bridget. And so she still, by this point, has not gotten herself pulled together yet. So she's still dealing with that. And so that's where Tyrone, Tandy, and Bridget are. Um, and if you remember, Tyrone and Tandy have a base, and this base is this abandoned church. I thought it was a warehouse, but it was an abandoned church apparently. And Bridget happens to know where Tyrone lives. Um, but Bridget doesn't tell on him. I think my thoughts about that is that I think Bridget feels like she has to be the big sister to Tyrone, or she has this some sort of a responsibility. Um, I'm not sure why that is. Uh, Maybe if you know, let me know. But that's the Bridget that we see here in season 2, episode 1. It's like, hey, she looks out for Tyrone. It's like, don't do this. Stealing from drug lords is not safe for you. You know, I know you have your power, but you also have your limits. So she's like the big sister to her. It's like, go back to the church, go back to hiding, whatnot, whatever. So in that base, in that church, Tyrone tries to catch up with her with his studying, but of course he doesn't tell Tandy that about his extracurricular activity. And Tandy um, also plays it like, oh, everything's cool, and Tandy and Tyrone watch this movie Zorro. I'm like, who watches Zorro these days? But apparently some people like him. Um, and so it seems all good in the neighborhood, but Tyrone doesn't tell Tandy about his extracurricular activity, and Tandy doesn't tell Tyrone about her extracurricular activity, and and that manifests in an argument later on because something happens. I'm not going to spoil it here, where the secrets are out, and so they confront each other. It's like, hey, how come you lied to me? Like, how come you don't tell me that you're doing this? Tyrone tells that to Tandy. Tandy tells that to Tyrone, and so they're airing it out. And you know what pisses off Tandy more is not so much that Tyrone is doing this shit. It, it's more the fact that Tyrone is doing this, tackling drug lords all by himself. She wants in on it. She wants them, Tyrone and her, to be a team. Um, but obviously, from what we saw in season 1, they, even though they've gotten better now in season 2 of handling their powers, um, but what we saw in season 1 is that sometimes there'll be occasional hiccups. Um, they're not in sync, with each other, or they might not be like, they're not fully functioned yet as a team. Like, when a team is good when it's as if it's as if the team members can just communicate with each other telepathically. Like they know each other's move. Like, okay, they know play by play. If I throw the ball this way, he's gonna do that way. He's gonna go this way. I'm using sports metaphor. But that's not the case with Tyrone and Tandy. It's still trial and error, and even though they've gotten better at that, of working as a tandem, um, I think it's still a long way until we get to what can be considered close to being a perfect team. And also Tyrone says this, that, hey, I don't want to involve you in this because you seem to be getting along with your mom. I don't want to ruin what you have here, your life. But Tandy's like, no, man, no. We're in this together. We're runaway teens here. Come on. I got your back and you got my back. So by the end of episode 1 of season 2, uh, they try again. They give this teamwork another shot. So before I get to episode 2, my overall thought is of episode 1 is it's fantastic. I know I'm biased because I love this show, but for reals though, I think the way the writers set it up so that hey, this is where they are right now at this point in their lives, and this is what they're grappling with, and this is what they're having difficulties of accomplishing. You know, and 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 I'm glad that the writers do not make it easy for us, the fans, to just like, yeah, Cloak and Dagger, high five, teamwork, Wonder Twins, whatever. It's like it's like, hey, you have to go through this progression. You have to deal with these issues, and each of them does have issues, and it's such a grounded, emotionally based drama that I, the characters are so like somebody you would come across, on the street, somebody your next door neighbor or whatever. They, even though they have powers, they look like just regular folks. Tandy and Tyrone, and they have their own. They got to figure that shit out as well, each of them. And so I think it's a great start of season 2 for me. Episode 2 is titled White Lines. So that's the second hour of the 2-hour premiere that's going to happen this Thursday, April 4th, on Freeform. And it's the aftermath of what happened at the end of episode 1. And what happened at the end of episode 1 is that there's a gruesome murder that took place, or takes place, I would say, in this nightclub that Tyrone and Tandy are trying to get an intel on. So they're there because they want to at least get audio tape, because they hear that the gang leaders, or at least a compilation or a group meeting of gangs will be there. But that meeting, or that group meeting, end up badly, with bodies lying and blood all over, and somebody pretty much has slaughtered them. And so in episode 2, you see the three perspectives of what transpires after that. The first perspective is from Tyrone, the second one's from Tandy, and the third one's from Bridget. Now, if you have seen the trailers or the previews for this season 2, you would know that they are introducing mayhem. Now, I did not grow up reading Cloak and Dagger comic books, so I had to look it up. Mayhem is this character who is apparently a part of Bridget. So that's not necessarily a spoiler, because you've seen the trailer and they are introducing Mayhem, and it's nobody else but Bridget. But in the comic books, as I read, or as I understand it, I'm sorry, is that the birth of Mayhem is the result of the death of Bridget. So that's in the comic books. So Bridget gets reborn as Mayhem. But apparently, obviously, that's not the case here, because Marvel's Cloak and Dagger series, the TV show, reimagines how Mayhem comes to be. Of course, because even I think the whole New Orleans too. That's something that's not even the comic books, the setting itself. So back to the episode. Episode 2 is titled White Lines. So 3 perspectives, right? So after the massacre, if you will, Tyrone comes to see Auntie Chantel. This is Auntie, who is very skilled at voodoo and mysticism and spiritualism. It's because that at the scene of the crime, Tyrone notices a symbol that looks supernatural stuff, like voodoo stuff. So he comes to her for advice, and she tells him, hey, that's a sign of Veve. I'm not sure what Veve is. Probably like a chi or an aura. And let me pause there. I think that's also an observation that needs to be explored a little bit here. I think it's cool that the show is set in New Orleans. I'm sure not just because of the tax breaks, but also it allows for the producers and the writers of the show to incorporate the spiritualism and mysticism that come with the cultures in New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans a couple of times, and it's a party town, especially earlier in the year, as you know. Um, but also a town where people believe in all kinds of things, whether it be God or whatever, So they have this thing, or karma. They have this believe in something. And so that's what the writers incorporate in this episode. Because in the conversation between Tyrone and Auntie Chantel, Auntie says like, "Hey, you know, um, you gotta pray." And Tyrone's like, "Pray, pray, pray to what?" And Auntie Chantel's Auntie is like, "Whoa, don't be disrespecting." She said, "It's like whatever, if you believe in God or you believe the universe, but don't diss on prayer. Um, the biggest power is within you. Lies inside your soul." And so that got pretty much Tyrone thinking. This episode also deals with Tyrone and Evita. Remember Evita, the girlfriend whom Tyrone pretty much abandons because he's on the run, and it's been 8 months now. And so they meet again after all these months, and they have, of course, lovers quarrel, bantering, debating, arguing, and I get it. I get it why Evita is so pissed, because if you are in a relationship, you're supposed to water that plant. You're supposed to take care of that. And so if you just like up and go and without telling you, and apparently when you are in a relationship, there's some things that she doesn't know about him. That's, why didn't you tell me? I thought we were together. I thought we were a thing. And so she is justified to be angry at him. Um, and I know you probably think like, well, Tyrone is a good guy. He would, he doesn't raise his voice. Like, come on now, give him a break. But these little things, these little things is when he dropped the ball, technically. So he fumbled. So you have to be mindful of taking care of those little things if you want to still be in that relationship. Now, in this episode, we also find out that Tyrone, despite the fact that he is getting better at his powers, or controlling his powers, um, he still doesn't know how to transport or teleport with somebody or with something. Um, there's a scene in this episode in which somebody gets kidnapped and she's on the ambulance, and so he's having trouble transporting with her. And so that is something that Tyrone still needs to tackle, as far as powers go. The second perspective is Tandy. Tandy is obsessed in this episode too, obsessed with this one girl named Makayla, who is abused by her boyfriend. And remember what I tell you, in season one. I'm sorry, not season one. In episode one, I told you that um, Tandy, as a vigilante, is beating up husbands or boyfriends who beat up their wives and girlfriends. So, so she's obsessed with this one particular woman named Makayla, mainly because after Tandy kind of does a bit of a payback on Makayla's abusive boyfriend, the next day Makayla continues to praise her boyfriend. "Oh, my boyfriend is nice, though he's timid now. Somebody broke into his house, and oh, I need to take care of him." And Tandy's like, "What in the world?" And that's the thing though. Uh, I'm not a victim. I'm not a survivor, but I've read that sometimes some survivors or some victims have it difficult in admitting, right? They have difficulties in admitting the thing or the abuse that has been done to them. Um, I don't know what kind of syndrome that is. But they feel like, oh, I need to give my husband another chance. I need to give my boyfriend. Oh, if maybe the next night he'll be good. Maybe the next week he'll be good. So no matter how many times that these women get beat up and abused and banged up, they still come back to their boyfriend. And I know it confuses, it baffles Tandy, it baffles the rest of us too. But there are cases like that in real life, and I think that the writers of this show trying to trying to put that or insert that dilemma in this episode 2 or in this season 2, um, to let Tyrone and Tandy know, just like Tyrone with the whole, you know, uh, uh, him inadvertently causing gang war by stealing from the drug lords. The writers say, hey, you know, you messing with other people's lives, you know, as well intentioned as it may be, that, you know, may not always result the way you want it to. Uh, Case in point, this woman named Makayla. And so Tandy's like, no, what are you doing? You're supposed to be like, leave, free. You know, I've done the heavy lifting for you. I've done the hero business. You know, I've terrorized your boyfriend. Like, why are you still coming back to him? So that's something that Tandy will still have to come to an understanding about. Whereas Bridget, Bridget has an interesting arc in this one. So I'm not gonna spoil that to you right now here. What happens to Bridget? But let me just end with this. Give you my overall thought about episode 2, White Lines. Um, I am stoked. I am stoked because in season 1 it seems like, if you recall season 1, it seems like Bridget is apart from Tandy and Tyrone. Tandy and Tyrone occasionally would like hang out together. Would, you know, each of them occasionally would just like doing their own thing. But Bridget seemed to be like, you know, on this sandbox, you know, in season 1, and you know sometimes she would like uh, cross paths with Tyrone and Tandy, but most of the time she'd be like over here. But I'm stoked that it seems that in season 2 we're gonna see more of Bridget. Hanging out or crossing paths with Tyrone and Tandy. And I can't wait to see how the team up of these three will play out. Um, but I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. Um, and also the team up of Tyrone and Tandy. You know, they still need to master their communication skills. They need to master also their strategies, because sometimes they think that they've okay, let's do a stakeout, or maybe let's observe these whatever bad guy, and they don't necessarily have a well thought out plan for that. So they need to also, you know, work on that aspect, because if they want to make this whole Cloak and Dagger vigilante team a thing that actually is effective, then they need to lock that down, man. Lock that down. Um, so yeah, I'm. Those are my probably 2 overall thoughts about this. I think we are in for a great season. It seems that it is moving at a faster pace. Season 1 seemed a bit slow at times, but season 2 is just like picks up. Like, all right, let's see where this thing's gonna go. And of course, on top of which, final thought is that I love the song selections. Oh my God, you know how it is with shows like Runaways, which is also Marvel series on Hulu, and Cloak and Dagger. They always have jams, you know, like hip hop and soul and a bit of gospel at times, playing in the background as the characters do their scenes, and it's fantastic because it makes it look like music videos. And I think that's the style that they're going with right now, especially The Blacklist also does that a lot. That's my other favorite show. So it's fantastic. And many of these song selections are not, you know, popular mainstream songs. They're just but they're catchy. They're probably more. Some of them probably underground, but they fit the scenarios. They fit the story at hand. So yeah, love it, love it, love it. So that's it. That's my overall review of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, new season 2, episodes 1 and 2. Both will be premiering this Thursday evening, April 4th, with a 2-hour season premiere, 2-hour season 2 premiere, only on Freeform channel. So make sure you guys go check it out over there. And again, please subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell, and if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. God, I love this show. Let's rock this.